Welcome back, baseball fans. Episode 5 of Season 3 of Around the State, PBR Alabama podcast. Let me rephrase that. A Prep Baseball Alabama podcast covering all things relative to high school baseball across the state. Obviously, you know that we are 3 days into the high school regular season. A lot of people have played 2 or 3 games so far. Some are getting started this week. Some have played 1 or 2. But obviously, we are, there's no more waiting. It's time to go. And we had a really exciting weekend this past weekend down in the Birmingham area. We previewed it last week. The Prep Baseball Alabama Kickoff Classic at 4 host sites. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. And we're right back at it now, preparing for this coming weekend, South AL Showdown, where we will have another impressive list of high school programs and players that will be playing in this event. We'll have 3 host sites there at Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, and Robertsdale. Looking forward to getting down there. And I think one of the big things is maybe looking forward to some warmer weather.
No doubt.
Absolutely. But it's a good weekend this past weekend. Obviously, we've also been following some scores across the state, as they come in, trying to keep a look on them. We obviously can't see all the scores, but just looking at how teams are doing early. I think it's important to let our audience know that, human nature, a lot of times we have a knee-jerk reaction as to how good someone is or how bad someone is. These high school teams are a game, 2 games, 3 games into their season now. And, it's you can have a knee-jerk reaction that this team's no good or, man, this team's awesome. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And, there are going to be some teams that don't get off to good starts that end up possibly win the state championship and vice versa. It's very important that you look at who teams are playing. That's why, we love these 2 events that we're doing to start the season, because it's quality opponents throughout for all of the teams that are playing. And I'm going to turn it over to Austin a little bit, let him talk a little bit. But before I do that, this was mentioned in the tweet. This is going to be a little bit of probably a shorter episode, because we will not be updating any rankings. It's no point in updating top 10 rankings with 1 or 2 games under your belt. But next week will be more of our normal, and it might be Monday, depending on our travel back from Mobile. We'll talk about that. But we'll talk about that later. But there'll be no rankings this week. But we, as always, welcome questions or comments from our audience. So while we're talking, if you've got a question, comment, put that in that comments section out there, and we'll try to get you on here and try to answer questions if they come across. But again, we'll turn it over to Austin. Austin, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to head down south. Ready for some warmer weather. But it was, like you said, a great weekend. 14 just really, really good baseball teams. Just an awesome weekend. We really think that this event really captures the excitement of the start of the season. There's just so much excitement when you're ready to play somebody else to start your season, and think that the Kickoff Classic does a great job of capturing that. And talked to a bunch of people. They seem to enjoyed playing some other really good teams. And as a coach, we talked about it. You want to put yourself in the best possible situation during the regular season to prepare yourself for area play and hopefully the playoffs. And playing in the Kickoff Classic, it doesn't matter who you play. Those teams you play will be very talented opponents. And it was the same this year. But yeah, going back to what you said just about knee-jerk reactions, I can probably assume, no offense, but Saraland goes 0-3. But, you look at who they played. They played Central Phoenix City, and then they played Thompson twice. They that was a very tough draw. Some teams, you look at Oxford goes 3-0, sweeps Vestavia Hills, and we'll talk a little bit more about it here in a little bit. But it's tough to obviously it's a small sample size, and it's tough to really pinpoint how good a team is or after 3 games. But that's why we kind of decided to push back the next release of our class polls and the first edition of our Power 25 till next week. So, but yeah, great opening weekend, and can't wait to go down to Gulf Shores and get to some warmer weather and check out some baseball down there.
Yeah, no doubt. That's, and then you look at, someone like Bob Jones, they end up going 1-2, but I mean, lost a tough one or 2 run game Saturday morning, which we'll talk about that in a minute, to Hartselle, and then lost a 2-1, really, really well played game in the cold Saturday afternoon against Central Phoenix City. Central Phoenix City looks primed again, ready to make a run again. Again, it's the first weekend, but that's what we got going on. Austin here in just a second will run us through some results from the Kickoff Classic before we look ahead to the South Alabama Showdown. But before we do that, just some things to make sure that you understand what's going on week to week. We've been working on our scouting reports today for our scout blogs. We will have a Kickoff Classic scout blog come out tomorrow where we're going to highlight the players that were really impressive. That will be coming out probably in later afternoon tomorrow. We'll get that done, and then we'll have a preview for the South Alabama Showdown as we head into that event. So that's what we have on the docket for this week. Not sure how many games we're going to see early in the week, but we'll definitely see our share of games on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday because we are completely when we don't have an open slot or open time slot anywhere at any of the fields. It's going to be a lot of baseball Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So as we mentioned, let's take just a very brief look back from this weekend's Kickoff Classic, starting on Friday. And as probably most of you know, over the northern 2/3 of the state, on Thursday and Friday, we had really good weather. And on Saturday, it turned pretty brutal. We did make some small changes to the schedule on Saturday. There were some coaches that, felt it best that they only played 1 game on Saturday. I understand. And we also had coaches that wanted to play 2 games on Saturday. And I understand that as well. And I think for the most part, that we pretty much was able to get all the coaches what they wanted. And, we were glad of that. And, we had a good time. It was good to get in that car and get the heat going. Our first comment tonight from Jay Bradford, runs his own podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You guys did a great job with this. I was at Spain Park. Some great baseball teams played. Great event. Jay, we appreciate that. Thank you tremendously. Listen to your podcast as well. And I will say this. Our host sites were very hospitable. I can tell you that. All 4 of the host sites, really good coaches and good people. They are good players. And, we look for that event just to continue to grow. But again, we appreciate that. And what a beautiful facility at Spain Park, man. That's that place. And they're still constructing there at the entrance. But we were glad to be there among all 4 of our other host sites. But thanks for your time.
I didn't get to go to Spain. Did they turf the whole field, or was it just like the infield?
They turfed the whole field. And correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there, I'm almost 100% sure Spain Park was already turf behind the plate. So Spain Park has that. Yeah. Spain Park has that light dirt look on their infield dirt areas, but where they already had it turf, it stayed dark back there. So, but it looks fantastic. And as I said, the bullpens are cleaned up. I looked down at the visitors bullpen I looked down at Spain Park's bullpen. It was huge with plow walls. Hoover was the same way.
Sure, Gardendale was too.
Yeah, unfortunately, we get to make Gardendale. They had the good hospitality rooms too, but
Mm.
the people at Spain Park took care of us too. But yeah, it was impressive facility, and I'll say this: that's the four host sites have four really good baseball programs, and there's a reason why. Because of things like that, making those improvements and those necessary changes. So again, thank you, Jay, for that comment. Austin, we'll take a quick look back at the Kickoff Classic if you want to just review some of the scores and things.
Yeah, starting off Friday night, most teams played one game, and then outside of Oxford and Vestavia, the game that you were at Friday night, they played a doubleheader. Spain Park beat Thompson 10-3 in the first game. I think a little bit of it's a not a surprise. We know how good Spain Park is, but we obviously saw how Thompson bounced back. That was a top 10 matchup in 7A. Another top 10 matchup in 7A. Hoover beat Oak Mountain 4-1. The game that I was at Friday night, Will Adams and Mason Blashy combined on the mound for the Bucks, and Will Adams had a big triple to give them the lead in the middle innings. The game that you were at 4:00, Oxford beat Vestavia Hills 11-1, and then Hartselle. And I think probably one of the better games from the weekend. Hartselle was able to beat Gardendale 5-4 in a game. I think Hartselle was up 5-1, and then Easton Klein had a big bases clearing triple. I think they had the tying run. They had the bases loaded to end the game.
I'm almost certain bases loaded with a 5-4 lead, bottom 7. Yeah.
And I think Andrew Coleman got a big strikeout in the game. That seemed like a good game. Hartselle was able to win 5-4. And then in the nightcap, Central Phoenix City defeated Saraland 6-1. And then at Hoover, the game that I was at, Chelsea beat Helena 6-1. Got a good start out of Logan Moeller. The second game between Oxford and Vestavia, Oxford won 9-5. And then the nightcap at Gardendale, Bob Jones beat Etowah 11-2. And Braden Booth kind of asserted his dominance on the mound, was up to 93 and looked in midseason form on the mound. And then you move on to Saturday, 3 slots of games where it was previously scheduled. We were going to have 4 slates, but due to the colder weather, we pushed back the start from 9 to 10, and then took off the 2 4:30 games because we both were leaving Hoover probably at about 5:30, and it was those 4:30 games would have been brutal. So.
Coach Smith today even texted us and said he was surprised we hung around until the end.
But those first slate of games at 10 a.m., Oxford continued to swing the bats well. They won 15-4 Helena, game that you were at. Hartselle beat Bob Jones 4-0 at Hoover. That was the game that I was at. Nick Chumley, man, you talk about efficient. Went 7 innings, and we talked about Bob Jones, how good they can swing it. Bats just went a little cold on Saturday, but they'll obviously continue to swing it with some big names in that lineup. Credit to Nick Chumley, just kept them off balance, was in the upper 70s. He's committed to Lawson State, was in the upper 70s, just mixed pitches, pounded the zone and forced weak contact. He went 7 innings, 4 hits, no runs, no walks, and no strikeouts. Needed just 65 pitches to get through 7 innings. So very impressive. They'll need him to continue to throw big outings for the Tigers this season. Thompson, in the first game of their doubleheader against Saraland, beat Saraland 8-2. And then the final game of the first slate of games, Gardendale beat Etowah 13-1 at Gardendale High School. I think Caden Combs had 2 home runs in that game, and I think he missed one earlier, and the Hearts. I think he almost hit another one in their first game against Hartselle. So he's off to a really good start to his junior season. 12:30, Helena, the game that you were at, was able to defeat Spain Park. Kind of highlighted by that Nick Peters home run. Nick Peters had a big day, and I saw them Friday night. He looked really good in the middle of that order. Had a big home run, and I think he hit another double to
up a laser up the middle. Yeah, came back. Yeah.
Central Phoenix City, the game that I was at, Central Phoenix City was able to beat Hoover 3-1 in a very, very well played ball game. A lot of low scores at Hoover High School, the game that I was at, which was fine with me. Made the games go by a little bit quicker in that cold weather. But solid baseball all around and good pitching. Central Phoenix City, like I said, beat Hoover 3-1. And then in the second game of that doubleheader between Thompson and Saraland, Thompson continued to swing it well, beating Saraland 11-1. Man, we talked about Thompson, how much they have coming back, but that Demarion Terrell,
Yep.
Bub Terrell, I think is his nickname.
Yep.
I think he's got a chance to potentially hear his name called in the MLB draft. He, for those who don't know, moved in from transferred in from Mississippi. Had a big home run in their first game against Spain Park. Colin Chamlin, who was covering that game, said he hit one ball that was even further foul down the right field line, and then had to continue to swing it well on Saturday. He's going to be the guy who probably a lot of pro teams are going to want to get out and see this season. I was go ahead and finish up the scores if you want to, and then I'll talk about what I was going to mention. In that final game in the 12:30 slot, Chelsea beat Etowah 8-2 at Gardendale. And then the final two games, just Hoover and Gardendale High School had the 3 o'clock slate of games. Central Phoenix City, which probably the Central Phoenix City and Bob Jones game probably rivaled or was close to probably those two games were probably the best games of the weekend. Central Phoenix City was able to beat was able to beat Bob Jones 2-1. Central Phoenix City got out to a 2-0 lead. Bob Jones scored one, I think, in the middle innings, and then in the top of the seventh, come up first and second, 2 outs. Jacob Pearl's up. You turn it over. Jacob Pearl hitting in the leadoff spot. Good piece of hitting. Drove one up the middle to center field, and Emery Yon out in center field just fired a bazooka to the plate. And you had to send that guy. It was 100%. Hit very hard, but you had to send him if you're Coach Smith to try to force a bad throw or maybe the catcher misplays it. But it was a great throw, great tag, and Central Phoenix City was able to pull that win out, go 3-0 on the weekend. Surprise, surprise, Central Phoenix City, same old. You know what you're going to get out of them. And then in the final game at Gardendale High School, Gardendale beat Chelsea 14-4. So they scored 27 runs on Saturday. And we talked about it, they're going to be able to swing it this year. So that's kind of an overview of the action that took place this week in Birmingham. Great baseball being played, and excited to see how these teams continue to progress and how they change over the course of the season.
Yeah, what I was going to say, we divided up. We had four scouts at 4 different sites, and we tried to move around where we could see different teams. It just so happened where I caught all of Oxford's 3 games, and I'll say this, man, Carter Johnson, we know how good of a player he is. I think that's a name that's known statewide. Obviously a top 5 player in the country overall in our rankings, and was able to see him for 3 games. And I'll say this to you. Get there Friday night, and I would guesstimate 15 to 17 MLB scouts there watching everything he does. And then we get there on Saturday, and it's 37 degrees with a 12-mile-an-hour north wind. And I'm thinking, there probably won't be as many, but there were more on Saturday there to see him. Some of them left and went over and watched Bub play as well. But there were probably 20 to 25 pro scouts there on Saturday watching Carter Johnson. And, I made this statement to someone, man, that is a lot for a 17-year-old kid to deal with. I mean, it really is. And it takes a special young player to be able to handle looking up in the stands and seeing 20 sets of MLB eyes on you, knowing that they're watching how you take balls in between innings, how you are in the dugout, what happens when you get hosed on a bad call. It takes a lot. And I don't think this is some big secret that I'm letting out of the bag here when I say this. Carter Johnson is going to be pitched differently. I mean, if I was coaching against him, especially in an area series, 24 is not going to beat me. I'm going to make someone else beat me. And that was the case this weekend. Carter did not see a ton of pitches to hit. And when he did, he barreled a lot of them up. Now, listen here, Carter Johnson's not superhuman. He's a really good baseball player. He's going to swing and miss. He's going to strike out. He's going to make error. That's going to happen. But man, it's really, really interesting to watch, and it happens every year. These high profile guys, these first rounders, possible first rounders, they've got these eyes on them. It's difficult for a 17-year-old kid, man.
But what did that person who told you, what did that person say back to you?
If there's one person that can handle it, it's Carter Johnson. I mean, that's what they told me. And it's, again, I just think that's just an important thing. I just had to mention that it's, everybody would love to be in his shoes. I mean, you would, but he's going to be pitched differently. He's got to be patient, and he was pitched differently this weekend. There was something that was really weird when they played Helena on Saturday morning. And I don't know that this happened, but I feel like I'm 99% certain. MLB scouts, and we try to do the same thing. We try to get to the hitter's open side. And Helena, you have to follow me here, Helena was in the third base dugout. So every time that Carter Johnson came up to hit as a left-handed hitter, all of the scouts went over by the Helena dugout, and they had their videos out videoing him. Well, I mean, it's like legitimately, there's 20 MLB scouts over there, and they come up, and it's second and third with like 2 outs, and Carter Johnson comes up. And I was actually talking to someone else, and I said, man, there's no chance I would throw to him. And I look over, and Coach Guy at Helena came out of the dugout and was talking to the pro scouts. And I have no clue what he said, but I have a sneaking suspicion he probably said, I'm only going to throw to him because y'all are here. I don't know that, but that was a funny little thing that happened. If it was an area game or a playoff game, no chance. No chance he's seeing a pitch to hit. But I just thought that was funny to see it from the other side of the field. But again, he's a talented player, and we wish him the best. So,
yeah,
no doubt. So we wrap up the Kickoff Classic. Like I said, not really wrapping it up. We've got our scout blog coming out tomorrow. But now we take a step ahead and look to this weekend. The South Alabama Showdown. We'll be prepping it this week, much like we did the Kickoff Classic this past weekend. We're really excited about this event. Got some, again, really good teams. Got mostly South Alabama teams, but we've got some teams making the trek now from Central and North Alabama. Austin, you want to sort of give us the details and schedule and teams that'll be there?
Yeah. So we'll get started on Thursday. That's February 22nd. And unlike the Kickoff Classic, where it's just Friday, Saturday, the South Showdown, along with the North Showdown, will both be 3-day events. Like I mentioned, we'll get started on Thursday, the 22nd, play games Friday, the 23rd, and then wrap up with a full slate of games on Saturday, the 24th. Have the same 3 host sites again this year, with the Gulf Shore Sportsplex, obviously. The Orange Beach Sportsplex, which is all turf now. They made some good renovations to that place. Looking forward to seeing it. And then our third host site will be Robertsdale High School. So 3 really good host sites. Obviously, all 3 of those teams are in the tournament. Looking at the full field of 15 teams that'll be partaking in this week's South Alabama Showdown. You have Baldwin County in Class 6A. Bayside Academy in Class 4A, Daphne, the Daphne Trojans in Class 7A. You have Fairhope, who's also 7A, Faith Academy, who's in Class 6A, Gulf Shores, obviously, like we mentioned, down there in Class 5A, Hartselle Tigers in Class 6A, a team that was in the Kickoff Classic, coming back down to the South Showdown for the second year in a row. You have Hueytown, who this will be their first. No, they were
in the Kickoff Classic last year. Yeah.
I was thinking when you saw Alton Davis last year, but that was in the Gulf Coast Classic.
Right.
So Hueytown will make the trip down in their first year in the showdown in Class 6A. Mobile Christian is back in it once again this year, and they're in Class 5A. Another one of our hosts, the Orange Beach Makos. That's got to be one of the best mascot names in the state. The Makos in Class 4A. And then our third host site, Robertsdale. The Bears are in Class 6A. Another team from the Kickoff Classic, you have Spain Park. The Jaguars are in Class 7A. And then you have Spanish Fort, the defending 6A runner-up in Class 6A. And then St. Paul's Episcopal. The Saints are in Class 5A, and then rounding out, coming back for their second season in the South Alabama Showdown, the Tuscaloosa County Wildcats in Class 7A have already gotten their season started, and they split with number one in Class 5A Alexandria this past Saturday, and looking forward to seeing them once again this year. Looking at our schedule, as I mentioned, it's a 3-day event getting started on Thursday, the 22nd. Just 2 slates of games at 4:30 and 7. At 4:30, you have Bayside Academy and Daphne at Gulf Shores. You have at Orange Beach, you have Fairhope and Faith Academy. At Robertsdale, you have St. Paul's and Spanish Fort. At 7 o'clock at Gulf Shores, you have Hueytown and Gulf Shores. At Orange Beach is Tuscaloosa County and Orange Beach. And then at Robertsdale is Spain Park and Robertsdale, and that'll wrap it up for the first day. On day 2, on Friday, 3 slates of games at 2, 4:30, and 7. At 2 o'clock is Tuscaloosa County and Hartselle at Gulf Shores. At Orange Beach is St. Paul's and Hueytown. At Robertsdale is Mobile Christian and Spain Park. At 4:30, you have Gulf Shore. You have at the Gulf Shore Sportsplex, you have Hartselle and Fairhope. At Orange Beach is Faith Academy and St. Paul's. At Robertsdale is Spanish Fort and Mobile Christian. And then in the 7 o'clock, the nightcap, at Gulf Shores, you have Bayside Academy and Fairhope. At Orange Beach is Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, which will be a fun game to be at. It was the first time that they had played last year, correct? First time ever program history that they played. Obviously, probably 10 to 15 minutes away from each other.
It was at Gulf Shores last year, so this year it's at Orange Beach.
Yeah. So that was a packed crowd last year, and it'll be a fun game to be at once again this year. That's at Orange Beach. And then wrapping it up in the 7 o'clock slate at Robertsdale High School, you have Daphne and Robertsdale. Moving along to the final day on Saturday, the 24th, we have 4 slots of games starting at 9, 11:30, 2, and 4:30. At 9 o'clock at Gulf Shores is Spain Park and Gulf Shores. At Orange Beach is Hueytown and Orange Beach. At Robertsdale, you have Hartselle and Robertsdale. At Gulf Shores at 11:30, you have Baldwin County and Spain Park. At Orange Beach, you have Hueytown and Tuscaloosa County. At Robertsdale is Mobile Christian and Hartselle. And then looking at the 2 o'clock slate at Gulf Shores, you have Baldwin County and Daphne. At Orange Beach is Spanish Fort and Tuscaloosa County. At Robertsdale, is Mobile Christian and Bayside Academy. And then wrapping us up in the 4:30 slate to conclude the event at Gulf Shores, you have Daphne and Gulf Shores. At Orange Beach is Spanish Fort and Fairhope. And then at Robertsdale, you have Faith Academy and Robertsdale. So a lot of big time matchups down there. Those 3 host sites taking place over the next 3 days, talking about Thursday through Saturday. And can't wait to go down there and blow out the coverage and seeing most of these teams for the first time this year.
Absolutely. And again, you mentioned it, some guys that are coming back for the second year down there that are not in the South. And then obviously we're going to see Hartselle and Spain Park again. Looking forward to that. As we mentioned, this is probably going to be a little bit a shorter of edition because of our not releasing our top 10 rankings. But that will pick back up next week. We will also this week, we will not be doing our Mizuno pitcher and player of the week, and we will not be doing diamond notes either. Again, the reason why there's only been 2 or 3 days of play, but then beginning next week, we'll be back to normal with our top 10 and 7As, 1A through 7As. We'll release our initial Power 25. We'll next week we'll get into Diamond Notes, Mizuno pitcher and player of the week as well. So next week's podcast will be more of what you're accustomed to during the regular season. If there aren't any questions or comments, I believe that will wrap it up for this week. Again, just taking a look back and then looking forward. Looks like some good weather across the state this week, so it should be a good week for baseball.
Yeah, didn't want to just not do a podcast. Obviously, didn't have anything really, really important to go over. Thought we would come on here and give a brief recap of the Kickoff Classic and look at the South Alabama Showdown. But if there's not any more questions about opening day or opening weekend over the past few days, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I think we're just over 30 minutes. So once again, thank you for tuning in to episode 5 of season 3 of Around the State. Can't wait to maybe check out some games early in the week this season, and then on Wednesday we'll be headed down to Gulf Shores in the Orange Beach area for another great week of baseball. Got one comment there, Mr. Broadhead.
Look forward to seeing Teague jump on the mound.
Yep. Bayside Academy Admirals, number 2 in 4A. Going to be excited to see them. But like I was saying, excited to get down there, get down some warmer weather, and check out some of the top teams in the south part of the state. So
may eat some seafood too.
We'll eat some seafood. Mikey's,
go.
Lulu's, Doc's.
Doc's. That's my place, man. Doc's.
We'll get after it.
Yep. Well, man, we appreciate y'all jumping on.
Go play some golf. Join me and Colin. Go play some golf.
I'll leave that to you and Colin, man. I'm terrible. I don't want to get mad. I want to enjoy my time down there. So, yeah, I'm gonna leave that to you and Colin. Let y'all take care of that. So, but if there are no other questions or comments, again, appreciate you jumping on, our audience following along, and we'll keep that coverage coming out this week, and we'll see you next week and get back to more of our regular podcasts we have during the season. If not, take care. We'll see you later.